today. We have a fantastic guest for you. I won't say too much at the moment about our guest, but you're listening live on 87.9 FM. You're also Facebook and YouTube video as well, and on other medium. I'm your host, Tamkin Riaz, and I say we're going to have a great expert for you. Now, business talks. What is business talks? Well, business talks is just going to enlighten you a little bit on business with the expert guest. And you know what is business? Well, business is you do something to get a product out there or give a service which will make you a profit. Remember that, profit. It's not a charity. Business is profit. I know it may be a dirty word for some people, but you have to live. You've got your expenses. Did you know most businesses fail in the first year? Most businesses fail in the first year. Others in the second year, and 80% go out of business within 3 years because they haven't planned. You have to plan your business from 1 to 5 years. Have an exit strategy as well, yeah? Or what you're going to do. What's going to happen if you're not well? Are you a one-man band? Have you got a team around you? So these are some of the things that will enlighten you on these programs. Yes? So that's inshallah our aim. And then, you know, is business right for you? You know, are you a teacher? Are you jobless? Are you a 9-to-5 person? Can you cope with 20 different things around you? You know, the accounts, the legislation, the staff, the sicknesses, you know, getting the products, selling the products, you know, the media. Can you cope with that? Or is it you've got a hobby and you want to make it into a business? Well, then if you have a hobby, it's a business, it's difficult because you have to then make sure that you are getting the right amount of income from your hobby, and is it sustainable? Yes. Do you have the right temperament for business? Yeah, that's another thing. So just some things to think about on business talk. So without further ado, I have a fantastic expert guest for you today. His name is Shujat Ali Shah, and he's been in commercial radio for the last 25, 30 years. Yes, 25 to 35 years. I know he looks younger than me, obviously. And, you know, since 1989. So, young man, I'll call you the king of radio, if you don't mind. So the king of radio, welcome to Shujat Ali Shah. Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum assalam wa rahmatullah wa barakatuh. Thank you, Tamkin Bhai, for inviting me. And thank you for giving us this time today to talk to you.
You're most welcome. So, young man, when did you first start work? Not radio, working. When did you first start working?
When did I start working?
Young man.
I suppose I started working in my high school because
Oh.
that's where you actually got your mindset, I suppose. That's where your brain started to come alive in terms of school and education. So, yeah, I suppose wheeling and dealing and business making started in high school. That's where it all began.
Excellent. And then how young were you when you got into the radio business? Did you start a radio or were you working in radio?
I saw radio for the very first time, radio and technology for the very first time when I must have been about 11 or 12. My younger brother was in hospital when he was about 7.
Wow.
And I used to walk past the hospital radio on a regular basis. And that's what intrigued me. I was about 11 or 12 at the time. So I first saw a studio, which I fell in love with, basically, the technology, the microphone, somebody speaking, and generally fell in love with it. So I saw that for 6 months because my brother was in hospital for 6 months. He was a little sick as he was growing up. And so that was, you know, my kismet, I suppose. I got to see a lovely live studio every single day for 6 months. And then it became an addiction.
Right. So then you got into the radio business somewhere about 1989-ish?
So, yeah, from there, basically fell into hospital radio first. Radio Top Shot was another radio where I got my training and had to do things like cleaning records and vinyl, so right down at the bottom end of the jobs. Just learning the skill, learning the trade, learning the craft. And I suppose a lot of Gurras laughing at you, saying, well, how are you going to get on radio with that name of yours, Shujat, because obviously they used to John and Dave and Bob on the radio, not Shujat Ali Shah, if you see what I'm saying. So I suppose it inspired me a little bit to work harder to get into that industry because of them. Had they not laughed at me, I'd not done it. So yeah, 1989 was my first official job to get in commercial radio. That's where I broke through all the kind of barriers. I was working for a publishing house at the time as a salesman, and then landed myself a brilliant job as a sales manager for a brand new station in Manchester, which in them days was called Sunset Radio. So yeah, 1989, best year of my life.
Wow, mashallah, mashallah. And then what is the difference between DAB and FM? I don't understand medium wave, DAB, FM, shortwave. What are they all that?
So basically, analog radio started from medium wave, MW. So MW is also known as AM, which are the same platform, AM and MW. FM is frequency modulation. That's a higher version of AMW. So AM came first, MW came first, and then they developed a better quality stereo sound under FM. Now it's digital. This sound is even better and superior than FM, and it does a few other funky technology things. So you've got three platforms. This country will switch off all its AM channels by 2020.
Okay.
Yes.
Oh, right.
Funerals.
That'll be mainly on the internet and DAB and other things, will it?
Correct. So there will be no medium wave channels in this country within the next year or two. They'll have switched them all off. They're all having funerals. BBC has already started. The bigger groups have already started. Our Global, they've already started having AM funerals.
Okay. So this is a business show. So talk about a little bit of business for us, how you got into business. Did you study business, or did it come naturally? And then how did you then start your radio stations, or that'd be a good one.
I was very, very blessed and very, very lucky. I had my mother's prayers. I had some elders' prayers around me, some family members. So I was very, very lucky. I actually learned as I walked the journey, had a great board of directors. God bless him. My first chairman was an accountant, Hamid Saab. I learned so much about numbers from him as I was a young whippersnapper when I got my first radio license at 25. So the acumen was not there, to be fair. The education was not there. Had to learn as we walked, as we ran quite quickly. Had you not done that, then you're missing opportunities. So luckily, I evolved myself around some very, very good people. Otherwise, could have quite easily failed exactly what I was doing.
My goodness, yeah. So you learned on the job, with your feet running. So radio, how much does it cost in those days? What was sort of the cost to start a radio station, and employees and everything that goes with it from business?
Yeah, when we started radio back in them days, as I say, there was only one company in London, and we were kind of second. So that's why. But in them days, IBA, the regulator in them days, which is two backwards regulators, we were now in Ofcom. So before that, it was Radio Authority, and before that, it was IBA. IBA had such a strict standard of how you can broadcast. They wanted studied walls. If they were wrong, you had to rebuild them and restart your construction again. Checking system. Oh yeah, it was like planning permission. It was unbelievably hard. And to start stations in them days, you had to put £250,000 in the kitty to start a radio station. It was not cheap.
250,000. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow, that's a lot of money.
That's what I raised at 25 years of age when I started my first radio station back in '94.
There was none of this Facebook and Twitter
no.
and all this, to help GoFundMe and help me and get your.
Well,
it was all manually done. And
in them days, in '94, I remember email just starting. FM and AM channels were massive, big business, and TV channels. So basically, that was your platform for media. Media, what we call traditional media. There was no social media. There was no obviously what you have now in terms of digital media, which is the last 10 to 15 years.
That's right, because now I understand that you can open your own radio station from the comfort of your own home using a laptop, for as cheap as, a few $100 if you want their adverts, or, $1,000 or so if you don't want any adverts on it. But of course, the quality is not there. You don't know your audience. You can't get this. So today, it's a little bit easier than raising £250,000 to start.
Yeah. The world's evolved, the social media, the internet, the streaming system, the technology, the whole infrastructure is evolved from 90s to now, 2000, 2001, evolved totally. Yeah, we're living in a multimedia world now. You've got to be able to communicate. You've got to be able to do technical things which are box standard on your iPhone. So you can buy an iPhone 12, but that doesn't mean that you're using the iPhone 12 to its full capacity. You're only using 10% of the software. Some of the software behind there is just phenomenal. Some people don't even look at some of the features. But I mean, they have the money to buy it, but they don't have the opportunity to kind of utilize or leverage the software inside that machine, if you see what I mean. So it's changed. We're living in a media world.
And you must have worked and employed many presenters and maybe household names at that time. So
employed some people from London, from Midlands, and of course from Manchester. Some people have moved on to kind of mainstream channels, whether it's Sky News or on ITV. One of the ITV presenters does the news in Birmingham. Sam Ali Khan used to do our breakfast show back in the day, 94, 95, I'm talking about. And then we've got some presenters I know that are on Sky now. So they've crossed over, they've grown, which is great. And it's nice to see that they, started out with us. We recruited them back in the day. So many of them floating around up and down the country. And there's other names as well I can mention, but the list just goes on, I suppose.
Well, sadly, one of the great personalities and radio presenters, Mir Khan, has passed away. Yes,
so recently.
Fantastic person.
Very, very sad. One of the icons actually in Ramadan radio presentation skills. I remember both Mir Khan and Praveen Mirza. These are two experts I actually knew and worked with, Praveen and Mir, both of them. So God bless her. She was a really gem of a person and a great presenter, great broadcaster.
So business show, business talk. So now let's go on to business. How can you encourage the younger generation, to do business? And what sort of businesses would you say? Obviously, media is something that everyone really, I think, wants to get into nowadays.
I think it is online. I think it is all about media. I think it's all about communications. So I think getting good communication skills is important. Everybody needs to have them lovely communication skills, be able to utilize their voice better, and go and find a voice coach, for example, and get better if you're not good at it. Not good at speaking. Speaking and communication is key. Media is key on every single device. Broadband is key. The world we live in today, it's about being able to speak as best as you can. And if you think you're average, then, voice coaches are out there. There are millions of them. And, after the show, if somebody wants some contacts, I'm happy to give contact as well, because that is the future.
Fantastic. We also have a phone number if anyone wants to ring in or ask any questions during the show, after the show. Brother Ibrahim will type them for us and give us the messages. So the phone number is 077 614 60 614. So if you've got any questions, whatever, please we're happy for you to type them into WhatsApp or call or whatever and that. So something you said to me earlier about talent now, micro and macro stations. So what's micro, and what sort of talent are we looking for, especially for the youth and especially for the Muslim? Being a halal, trying to do everything halal is very difficult, or is it?
No, look, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives us our talent personally. Okay. If we don't use that talent, or actually we don't know it's asleep in our body, if you see what I mean, this is an actual personal development tip rather than a business tip or a radio tip. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala applies every human with the same talent. Some of us dig deep and find that talent within ourselves, and we then utilize it further. Some of us just stick with it or stay with it for a few years or maybe a decade or two and start and find it a bit later in life. So it's all about learning. It's all about self-education. So we need to inspire our young ones about self-learning, especially, again, the world we live in today. Good communication, good media expert, becoming good journalism. This is just standard practice. I mean, back in the day, this was an industry where you had to go to college and school. But this is just self-taught today. You've got to self-teach yourself some of these skills, to be able to speak well on any particular device. It doesn't matter whether it's a telephone call or a Zoom or a radio show. It's communication all around.
So how do we pass on the baton to the youngsters as well, so that you can come into mainstream? You talk very nicely about people that you worked with and coached who are now in mainstream. We need to get more Muslims, in my opinion, on mainstream, so that people then don't fear the Muslims, as it were.
Well, firstly, once we get talent in our community, the mainstream want Muslim names now. The BBC wants Muslim names because there's a market there today. They need that level of culture, translation, and understanding. So if you have that talent within yourself, in your voice, in your presentation skills, in your communicational skills, then you'll get the job anyway, or you'll be in there, because 9 times out of 10 an English boss will be in that back seat thinking about, this guy speaks English beautifully, he also speaks 3 other languages. Oh wow, I need that Muslim halal angle covered as well. Boom. So that is the way that Muslims or British Muslims should look at the mainstream media now for jobs and business opportunities, because they are there now. They really are. They weren't there in my time back in the 90s, but they are there now. The market is totally open for that. If you have the talent, they will look at you. And if you don't give up, just keep knocking, making sure you're getting your CVs in front of the right people.
Excellent. Did you know there's something called the brown pound?
Yes.
Yes, which means, for our viewers and whatever, the brown pound is Asians and Muslims, especially in the UK, have more disposable income than other groups in the UK. So they know that where their bread is buttered. And is that why they are, trying to get us to sell products, to be on TV?
100%.
Buy from us.
100%. Look, it's a basket, right? The brown pound has got muscle. Okay, so every big national commercial radio station, when you talk to them about the brown pound weight, they start thinking in a different way. You've posed a different question to them. But yeah, it's got a lot of muscle, it's got a lot of weight, it's got a lot of value. And, you only have to look at Tesco's and some of the big retail outlets. How come they've all got halal shops today? I remember back in the 90s, that wasn't a market that was open. When we approached some of the bigger names, they said no. But today they want to be there. They want to have that presence. Halal food and brown pound market, if you want to call it. It's absolutely grown. So it's grown from the Asian market to the Muslim market. If you combine both, there's an absolute huge pound sign plus a dollar sign plus a euro sign and everything else. So it's maybe you'd want to extend that to a brown pound and the euro with the dollar. I mean, it's a global game.
So we can call it the brown currency.
Yeah, the brown probably the right phrase for it, Tamkin. Absolutely.
So we invented a new word there. I don't know if it is, or brown crypto or brown currency or whatever. So as you say, Morrison's, Asda, they have halal outlets, meats in there. Also during Ramadan, as now, they're doing special offers on oils and rice and whatever to get Asians, Muslims especially, into their stores to purchase from them. Tesco's as well, Sainsbury's. Now you see halal everywhere. Before you didn't see halal labels.
Yeah.
Great. So what is this macro and micro? Explain that to me, the systems.
Well, in terms of business models, they're just models, right? So it's how you manage a particular model, I suppose. A macro model is a bit wider and a bit more horizontal and vertical, if you see what I mean. A micro model is a lot smaller. It's not managed that much on as a horizontal or vertical way. But macro is obviously a huge model, if you see what I'm saying. It's got lots of staff in it. It's got lots of structures in it and systems. So yeah, that's the difference. But again, if you say, you've got a big company like BBC, big macro model there, lots of broadcasters, lots of presenters and journalists, and then you've got a small company, which is a small radio business, whatever that is, or TV business, if you see what I mean, doing the same thing, aren't you? You're still the same size, so you're micro, aren't you? Ramadan Radio might be the micro to be the macro soon, if you see what I mean. Into many cities across the UK. So I think we all have to start somewhere, and then we have to go to that macro level.
So how difficult is it to get licenses for radio stations? Obviously, they've been given or brought for 30 days in different areas for Ramadan Radio 87.9 or whatever. Can you get these easily, or is it quite difficult?
So they've changed the rules for Ramadan. They've very much made it like a lottery system. So it's changed compared to back in my days. I don't really get much involved with restricted service licenses. That's what these are called. So you've got 2 or 3 tiers of licenses. License 1 is what you're talking about, which is restricted service license from Ofcom. They issue that for a 20-day period maximum, sometimes up to 30 days. And, they do it through a system that they've collaborated within the regulator. Number 2 license is community radio license, which again, a community organisation might be doing charity work, might be doing community work or something. Won't necessarily be commercial, but they're then given a license, and they're quite cost effective to manage, whether they're FM or AM channels. They're very cost effective to acquire, but you have to go through a process like anything else. Ofcom are very process driven and procedure driven. That's how it works with them. And then the 3rd license that you can get in radio is commercial radio license. So I worked for 30 years in the commercial radio license. The 4th one obviously is BBC, but we're not going to talk about that. We're just going to talk about maybe commercial and community and maybe RSLs and service license.
Right. So that's the radio industry.
Yeah.
What other businesses have you been involved in? Obviously, in business, some fail. I know that, from personal experience. Some do work. Right place, right time, funding, all sorts of things. So what other businesses have you been involved with, and family and whatever?
So all the businesses I've been involved in the last 20, 30 years are either technology-based, software-based, around radio and TV and production, I suppose. And that has been my core 30-year experience of life. I have, however, explored property like any Pakistani or any Muslim, I suppose, or land, and tried to go into different asset areas. So that's been my other area, because I have other brothers and sisters who are doing extremely well in the land and property. So in a way, they probably wrote me into that industry as well, eventually, as property and land operators. So yeah, they're mainly my 2, but I would say technology, radio and TV production is what I know inside out, and probably going to stay with that as well. But hey, nothing wrong with buying the odd house, is
No,
there?
bricks and mortar, land, precious metals have always been, favoured.
Land will always be there. Property will always be there. It's one of them lovely assets that you can invest in and then get residual income from as well.
That's right. That's another thing, residual income. That's a very good point. So you do the work once and then you keep getting money again and again and again. So have you written any songs or produced any songs or any of your friends? So you're getting residual income?
And yes, well, you don't have to just write residual income from radio stations. There are ways of making residual income from productions as well. Basically what we're doing. So if you look around for some podcasts out there, some radio casts out there, I can share some of them podcasts are making a real monetization of £50,000, £10,000 in monetization, 100,000 in some cases. So that is also royalty, if you see what I'm saying, that somebody has come in and fronted up because of the size of the audience and the size of the speciality guest. So it's not just songs on radio. You can now get that for radio or podcast. Interviews for 30 minutes, 1 hour, 15 sessions, 10 sessions. It really depends what the topic is.
Very good. So you've done a bit of property, you've done a bit of land, you like technology, you like radio. What other businesses can the youngsters go into?
Well, content business. We're in the content world. We're living in the content world. Communication. That's why it's so vital. So content world is phenomenal. There's so much in the landscape of content. There's masses: video, audio, sound, radio, podcast. The list goes on. The content world is absolutely. There's a lot of monetization in that marketplace. Absolutely. Don't underestimate what is in that pipe. There's loads in there, honestly.
Right. So really, when you're saying content, you really mean education.
Yeah.
Is it?
Well, whatever you think that there's an audience for, we've got to have an audience for whatever topic we're going to bring on. You know, is it content for cars? Is it content for houses? Is it content for halal? Is it content for, what is the format? What's the content for? Is there a need for it? Is there a demand for it? Because if there's a demand for it, you can then monetize that content, you know? So in a lot of ways, on a lot of platforms, as you are already doing. I don't know the commercial parts of your business here, Tamkin, or the brother I spoke to just before you. But you know, it's all monetization, right? You've got the technical part of this business, and then you've got the content part of this business. Then you've got monetization. You know, high level monetization, low level monetization. It's there. You can leverage that.
Can you give just one example of monetization? How people can make money? Just one that's worked or may have worked, or because
I would do it in conjunction with this radio channel. So because I'm giving my loyalty to this channel, because this is where I'm doing my interview today, I would do a 30-minute session with this channel, if you see what I mean, on a specific topic, and I would exchange that with this channel into a podcast, which we could monetize and bring in a sponsor or whatever it might be in terms of monetization.
So how do you bring a sponsor in? How do you monetize your half-an-hour podcast? How do you get it out there? You know, I've got lots of not podcasts, YouTube videos and content that I've done in the past. I've never monetized it. I've just let it go for free on the internet.
No, so it's a business. It's a business. It's now podcast and radio cast is a business, if you see what I mean. But again, if you think there is a demand against the audience, we've got to measure the audience, right? People want to sponsor an audience. If there's only 1,000 people there or 200 people there, maybe a sponsor doesn't want to sponsor that. But if there are 100,000 people there or 50,000, and he sees that, this has got scope, this audience is going to grow from 10,000 to 50,000, then a sponsor is going to get involved. A third party who's associated in that space, in that topic, in that segment, will get involved.
So really, you need followers, people who are you know, hungry for that content. If you've got 100,000 or 200 or 50,000, they must think, oh well, 1% would buy, 10% would buy. They will do these analytical calculations, or go onto Google and see what the top selling 100 contents are around the world. Google will tell you, won't it? And then you can do it that way, yes.
Yeah.
So Google
content is king.
How many hits it's had.
Yeah. Honestly,
Google Analytics, is it free to get Google Analytics, or is
Google Analytics it's free to a certain point, but again, it depends how much you want to do analytic and data and all that lot. You really would need to get an expert involved at that stage. You won't be able to do everything yourself, you know. So there are bits where you need to sharpen your own pencil, get your own skill, and then there is a bit which you've got to understand in any business. Who do I bring in now, and when do I bring them in? Because that's what a good businessman is all about, bringing better people than themselves around him and growing his business and being able to keep them happy, manage them, engage with them, and grow.
So really, you need a team of experts around you. And if you can get the advice for free to start off with, find some products or content for free and then sell that if possible, then make some money. And with that money, rather than doing everything yourself, getting the experts. Yes, it will save you time, it will
Yeah,
save you money, but the experts may know a shortcut, and you're
yeah,
paying for that advice, really, then, aren't you?
yeah. If people can see legs in your business and your passion and the way you're doing your business, he's going to say, well, yeah, I want to come in and help that guy, and maybe I'll invest 10% in his company as well. It helps them along. Absolutely.
So if you've got a certain hobby and you want to monetize it, then obviously, nowadays put it into Shape Google, see how many people are searching for that word or looking for that hobby, see if you can join some groups that are doing that already. That will be very useful. But treat it as a business, because this is where I found people have been going, well, I won't say wrong, but they lose focus, because when you're doing it as a hobby, you're not really, working out the time you've given, yeah, and the cost of your time, and going out and buying things for your hobby. It might be, making models, trains, planes, whatever, and your time, then painting it, and then trying to sell it. So, don't treat it as a hobby, treat it as a business. For example, during Ramadan and other times, I knew a few ladies who said, "Oh, yes, we're making dinner, for the elderly. We're making samosas and pakoras, and, we're selling them, for £1 for 3 samosas, and, we're making a profit." I said, "How much are you selling them for?" "Oh, we're selling, three for £1." I said, "Well, I think you're just breaking even." She said, "Well, no, 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 no. We're making a profit." I said, "Can you just explain to me how you're making a profit?" "Well, we get together, we buy the ingredients, and then we make the samosas and we sell them." I said, "Well, what about your time?" "Oh, okay. What about your premises? Whose premises are you? What about your gas? What about your oil? You know, oh, what about the time you went shopping?" I said, "You're not making a profit. I bet you," I said, well, I shouldn't say bet, but I did. I said, "I bet you you're making either breaking even or making a loss." And I said, "Let's sit down and let's calculate it all." And on that £1, they were making 10 pence in that pound. And they thought they were in profit. But that's how you should treat a business. You should do all the calculations. Have you found that? Was that useful? And have you had people thinking they're making a profit when they're not, and they're doing it for
Yeah.
love?
Well, it's very easy to get into that cycle
Yes.
and thinking that they are making a profit. And then, like somebody yourself comes into the game and becomes their auditor and
Yeah.
checks out and says, by the way, you are only making 5 pence to the pound and
Yes.
not 50 pence to the pound. You told me 50 pence, but it's
Yes.
actually 5 pence. I've just done a due diligence test on your business. Consequently, yeah, it happens all the time because that's the invisible cycle, as we call it in business. And if we don't have somebody who can be a agony aunt or an agony uncle in business terms, then yeah, they're just going to go round and round that circle, thinking they're making all this money, and they're not.
Yes, that's a shame. So, whichever business you're thinking of doing, do find an expert and a guide to help you in that business. You
I
know,
think
why are you reinventing the wheel? It's all out there, isn't it?
yes,
Why are
yes.
you falling backwards and, falling down and again and again? You must have mentors and experts and, join groups, go to networking, go to business, whatever it is, your area.
I think just ask, find the right guy, one guy, whoever you think is good in business, and say, look, have you got 1 hour to mentor me or half hour? I'm surprised people will mentor you. People will give you advice on text or email or whatever means they can with the busy scheduled time they have. They will try to help you, even if it's 10 minutes or 5 minutes.
No, no, no. I have found that people are very, very generous with their time, and then afterwards, when the person has made some money, they will go back to that mentor and say thank you very much, and you really helped me. And I'm going to play it forward. Playing it forward means giving back, doing the same thing for others. I also understand you're writing a book as well. You're writing a
Uh,
book,
yeah, I
or you
started a book
started
last
writing a
year.
book.
I started a book last year. We're trying to just get the right name for it, the radio business license. But we're kind of quarter way through it.
Okay. How many pages is it? Will it be?
It's going to be a biography, a business biography with a bit of radio and technology and various other things, and 3 of the regulators I've met. So it's about 30 years. It's based around my parents as well, and growing up in this country. So there's plenty there. I think the total pages are going to be I would say more than 60 or 100 easy. As I say, we're just quarter way through it at the moment. So yeah.
Well, let's talk about that then, because you can monetize that. You can also
100%.
have the hard copy. You can have the paperback copy. You can have it on a PDF.
Correct.
You can have it written out.
You can have it as an audio book. You can have it as a film. You can reverse it into whatever level you want to, in terms of taking a basic book of what you put it. Yeah, absolutely, 100%.
So from one product, you can maybe turn into 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 products, all at different varying price points.
Correct.
So that's something to think about. I won't charge you for that tip, yeah? I won't charge.
Okay, my publisher already advised me that are you going to take this to a film level, or are you going to buy it are you going to close off at a book level? If you're just going to make a book out of it, then do this. If you're going to take it to the film level, and I'm like, all right, you've got me thinking here now.
Right.
But yeah, no, great tip, Tamkin. Thank you very much.
Okay.
Great reminder.
That's right. No, yeah. So do the work once, as I say, and then from there get different baskets and then put different things. So I would say you're more a technologist and maybe an entrepreneur rather than just a businessman.
Yeah, look, I bring technology guys together, teams together. I don't actually do the work myself, so but it's bringing the right people, getting the right fix of people together, and then creating that technology team to build you that platform to get the thing moving. If you see what I'm saying, because once you've
Is it just in the local area you're doing it, or just in England, or all over the world?
Across the UK. Across the UK, I work with companies in London, in Leicester, Birmingham, Manchester. So no, across the UK, globally, we work in Australia, we work in Canada with clients, with people. So yeah, we're all over. I mean, obviously UK now with the stream and technology, the way things are, we're in a global village. It's not the same as what it used to be, if you see what I mean. London and Manchester and the UK. It's now all a global village. We don't know who's listening to this service right now, sat out in Malaysia maybe, or in Pakistan, or in Australia, or wherever, because stream allows you to do that.
Right. So what projects have you got going now, and which projects have you got coming in the future that we should be watching out for?
There are a couple of projects. As I say, as radio's going to be mass, some of the projects we can speak about. We're going to be expanding digital radio, where we've got a digital multiplex project starting, which is basically engineering. This is where digital radio is put in as 50 channels. This is what I was saying back in the day when you had analog frequencies, AM and FM, they were given out as one frequency. Now it's given out in the capacity of data, if you see what I'm saying, in a bundle. So when you get a multiplex, so let's say, for example, in this case, we get a multiplex for Leicester, or we get a multiplex for Wolverhampton or Birmingham, then there are 50 licenses in that multiplex, as you can see. They're all streamable. So if you say, I want Tamkin radio, or we want Ramadan radio, or we want, we can literally put the brands and the businesses off the back of this particular multiplex system, which again, it's got awarded by Ofcom to experts who they feel can manage this level of engineering, level of software, technology, all the usual stuff. And I've got that, I suppose, track record of the last 20, 10 years, 30 years of radio, audio, TV, whatever it is.
Excellent. So great things to come. So that's currently and a little bit of future. What about in the far future? So we looked at short term, medium. What about long term? What's your goal long term?
Long term, I think I have a charity, giving back. We're growing that part of our akhirah, if you want to call it. That is the real world, if you see what I mean. This is our temporary world to do all the things that we've got to do, if you see what I'm saying. So it's probably transitioning away from all the businesses, the engineering, the technology, the business, and in 3 or 5 years' time, probably doing a lot more philanthropy or charity that way and giving back that way, rather than just business and commercial, because they are two different animals. They are two different sectors. As much as we like to say, I'm going to put 6 hours in charity today, and then I'm going to be a businessman or an entrepreneur 6 hours later. It's always nice just to do one or the other, to be fair. But look, you've got to push it. And that's how we do it at the moment. I've only got about 2 hours, 3 hours or 4 hours a day in charity, and the rest is in commercial or family life and Dean and other things, where hopefully the commercial will fall in the next 2 or 3 years, and that will all get taken up by charity and other things.
What about halal businesses? Have you thought of halal businesses?
I think the youth should look at that online, again, on radio, halal businesses, halal mortgages, halal finance, halal food. Foods is going to be a massive
Food is big.
business.
I've noticed
Yeah,
food is big. Everywhere I go.
Food is going to be a massive.
Foodie groups, halal foodie groups. Have you been to this restaurant? Have you been here?
Yeah.
Food is a big one.
I think food is going to be a massive business to your doorstep. No, not that way and this way of the old, but food, whether it's warm, fresh, frozen, whatever it is, to your doorstep for a price. I think that's going to be a massive business. Same with water, air. These are some things that are going to be massive commodities I know of in coming years and months in terms of being halal. Because look, we can't live without air and oxygen, right? If you see what I'm saying, these are musts. Surely COVID has taught you something, if you see what I mean.
Yes.
Say, well, 1 minute, if there's a scare in an area, if you see what I mean, then I'm actually happy to buy my water or my air, if you see what I mean, or my oxygen or whatever, and make sure there's a nice cylinder downstairs. So just in case, that happens or that happens, we can do this or that. And isn't that what we make our money for?
That's right, yes. Health will be another big one, obviously.
Massive. Again, you got into
vitamins, health, halal health, the going back to the old Islamic ways of health. And
I think that's probably
black
alternative
seed
health.
oil, black seeds, the types of fruit, vegetables, what the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam eat, what did he like. I didn't know this, but he would never eat sort of processed food. He would eat natural food, natural grains. So wouldn't take the husk away, wouldn't take, everything was a whole meal. I didn't realize that until someone told me. In those days, it was only whole meal. Everything was organic. And that's why people, lived a little bit differently. And, they worked hard. But now we've got too much salt, sugar, processed food. Even in halal, I've been told, there's a lot of processing now going on. So I think we need to really look at our food and the health. Because now we've all realized our health is number one. Without health, we're nothing.
Yeah, and that's where the food and the right foods, the right air, the right water, it's part of that health process. Absolutely. 100%. They are going to be absolute huge areas, growth areas of business, services, products that are going to be worthwhile researching. My suggestion is always research your business invention or idea and then take it to an expert, let him have a look at it or her have a look at it and see if it's, worthy to launch in the marketplace.
That's right, because very recently, you're getting the halal fashion as well for women as well. Even, dare I say it, swimming costumes as they were, fully, sports as well, sports equipment, sports kits, shoes, covering, especially for ladies.
Well, some of the big brands like Adidas have come in and put their name onto some of these things, hijab and various other things. So it's good. It's nice to see.
Right. Well, it's been excellent talking to you.
Likewise.
Obviously, we didn't go into much depth or anything because we just generally wanted people to think about business and think of some of the pitfalls. So what I have gained from this is, research, do as much research as you can, find an expert, roll it out to the experts, get their feedback, friends as well in the similar things that you want to do. Go when you are possible to networking, or also, you know, search on the internet, join groups on the internet, you know, who have similar interests. You don't know who you're going to find on there. You may have the time, the other person may not have time, they may have money, so you can barter, you can do lots and lots of things.
Well, I think if you just ask for me, some people will come forward and actually help you. They want to help you. You'll be surprised. We're living in a great time in that sense. There are a lot of people that do care, do want to help, can find some time. So I think ask for me. We don't ask sometimes. We assume in our mindset, right? And we think, oh no, he's not going to help me. He's too busy. He's not going to answer my question. Go and ask. You'll be surprised. You really will be surprised who will say yes to you. So,
right, we're coming to the close of the program now. And so if you've got any ideas or anything you want to ask, you know, you can WhatsApp, and or even after the show, you can get in touch with Shujat Bhai. Yeah. And of course, you've got the WhatsApp number as well to communicate, 077 614 60614. Would it be all right, Shujat Bhai, if people want to ask questions or get in touch with you
yeah,
through
absolutely.
Radio
I
Ramadan
can
London?
leave my email address and details, and of course, yeah, people can email. I'm happy for that. Anybody needs any questions answered, any support, any advice, we'll see if we can guide them in the right direction.
Excellent. We really do appreciate you coming on to the show. This was, you know, the business talk shows, and I think I hope we've whetted people's appetite that they should do a little bit of business. You know, 9 to 5. You know, you can't rely on. It is good, and
Yeah,
always have it to a 9 to 5. Have some other things up your sleeve, and
100%,
especially if you're being furloughed and be working from home, you
100%.
may be able to have 2 laptops going at the same time. You know, your work one and another one for when your work is not busy. Don't waste your time. Obviously, you know, read the Quran, do your prayers and zikr, you know, enlighten yourself, but also look at different businesses and you know, think outside the box. There isn't a box. Someone said to me, I said, you know, think outside the box. They said, Tamkin, where's the box? I can't see any box. There isn't a box. It's mindset.
100%, 100%.
Any last
So
words?
yeah, yeah, no, just really to say, like you say, ask, and I think, you know, you'll get. It's as simple as that. And you know, self-educate yourself. There is just so much out there in terms of courses in self-education these days, self-learning, self-understanding. Just learn about more things, more skills. It's amazing what you can do, and then rest is just go out and seek the help. It's there. We just assume it's not there. You know, that's how our mindset works, right? But I think if you ask, you will get.
Well, thank you very much, Shujat Ali Islam. We really appreciate it.
My
My
pleasure.
next program is Halal Tayyib as well, which is on Tuesday. So we've done one on your akhira, you know, your grey plots. We've done one on halal meat, FSA, HMA, and independent. And this Tuesday, 6 o'clock, we've got Islamic wills coming up.
So you're covering the brown pound.
The brown pound. And then the following and maybe the final program will be on Islamic finance as well. And
Sounds
I'm
like
not sure we're going to have a program after that, but you know, we're all lined up.
Sounds
And
like the
maybe we'll
halal.
have another expert on Sunday or Saturday next week, whether if there's slot available, talking about business. So again, thank you very much, Shujat Ali Bhai. Thank you for coming to Radio Ramadan London. You're
My
in
pleasure.
Manchester. I'm in Surrey, South London. And so thank you very much. Inshallah, everyone have a blessed Ramadan. Looking forward to Iftar. And everyone, thank you very much for your call. Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. MashaAllah. You still there, brother?